Hey everybody, welcome back to Lunchbox Radio. To the Lunchbox Radio podcast rather. I am Alex, your host. And before we get started, first off, I want to, as ever, apologize for the background noise. Once again, it is the height of summer when I'm recording this, and where I am, it is very hot, and it is even hotter because I have a very highly elevated studio. I can see treetops from the window next to my recording setup. So if I don't keep the AC on, I might pass out. And I don't want to do that. I don't think you want to listen to that. So that's where we're going there. Second off, you might notice that it's not my usual background setting. That is because I recently got the opportunity to go into New York City, and if you're listening to this on the time it releases, which is Thursday, I believe the July, it will still be going on until I believe July 11th. So you have a little bit of time to get in and see a really cool Takashi Mork exhibit over at one of the two I found out the hard way Gagosian art galleries in New York City, in Chelsea. The one on 24th Street, not the one on 21st. I made that too, so don't feel bad if that happened to you. But it's worth going in. There's not much of what you would think of as traditional Murakami, although there are a couple canvases of his that are collaborative things with Louis Vuitton, since he has another Louis Vuitton collab. But there are famous Murakami, but mostly it's his slavish and giant recreations of traditional Japanese ukiyo-e paintings, and it's just a really interesting thing. If you have the chance, definitely go check it out. But if you don't, there are obviously pictures behind me, so you can go check those out. So check out the pictures without me in front of them, over on of which there's always a link in the description of the podcast wherever you get your podcasts and listen to them. But without further ado, I want to jump into what we're talking about this week, which is a little show from 2025, which weirdly you may not have actually watched because it was in fact over on Amazon Prime, and we'll touch on some streaming stuff kind of up front because I think there's some interesting stuff to talk about there. But the show I'm talking about is Gundam G-Clux. So let's toss it over to I for a plot synopsis, because it's going to be a tricky one anyway. So I, take it away. Hey, this is Bento Radio, and I am Alex, and this week we have a special guest. How do I pronounce your name?
Tomato, both works.
Philtomato or tomato, depending on your regional dialect. Apparently, is an artist I followed for a long time over on Instagram. I really love your work.
Thank you.
Can I call you Phil or what?
Yeah, just call me Phil, man.
I really love your work, Phil. I feel like I'm talking to Dr. Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air a little bit, which is fine. But it's really referential, and if you grew up in the late 90s to mid-aughs, you will recognize stuff in Philtomato's work, I guarantee. It's actually alarming and fun to see when I recognize your style and I see stuff. I'm going to start combing through this thing right now.
See, Alex, this is the reason why I draw. It's for people like you, man. Whenever I hear people nerd out about the stuff that they grew up with, it's super nice to see, and it just gives me like a lot of goosebumps whenever I see people on the comment section talk about, oh my God, is that Samurai Jack with Johnny Bravo? And they talk about the episodes, and everybody's like, I watched that episode too. So like, a lot of people have this nostalgia buried deep inside their heart that just wants to come out. And I feel like my art is like a way to bring that childhood back. You know what I mean? Because whenever
I totally get that.
We're getting old, you know what I mean? I'm like millennial, and life has a way of creeping up on us. We don't have time to like relive our childhood again. And like, so I see a lot of my friends, they get older and they become adults, and that's all they ever are. And I feel like it's really nice whenever I see people who are adults go back to being children again and relive how they were when they were sitting at Saturday night watching cartoons. And it unites people together with that nostalgia that we all share wherever you are in the world. You know what I mean? And that's like the
I,
most
no,
beautiful.
I totally get it. It makes total sense to me. I was genuinely sad when I looked up what happened to just the concept of Saturday morning cartoons because I think from what I read, it basically the viewership dropped off with enough streaming options that it just the whole incentive structure fell apart under it, and they just
Yeah,
stopped.
it's not just that, it's the world in general. The world has
Yeah.
changed so much. The only time when we could watch like Adventure Time is when we go to YouTube. When was the last time you went to watch a TV and looked for cartoons? We never do that anymore. You know what I mean?
I'm insane, obviously. I do that literally daily. Sometimes that's all I do in a day if I'm very lucky. But I
Dude, you're
totally
preaching
get
to
it.
the choir here. That's what I do. I'm like obsessed as well.
When now you're not full disclosure, and I made this mistake when we were scheduling. You're not based in America, but
No, I'm actually in the Philippines in a small island of Cebu. I'm putting
okay,
on an accent right now because if I talk like a normal Filipino, it would be really hard to understand me. So I put on an accent so that it's more digestible
that
for people.
answered.
Yeah.
But when did you encounter late '90s, early 2000s Cartoon Network? What channel?
Oh, in the Philippines, we had this thing. It's called Sky Cable,
Okay,
and
I've heard of Sky Cable.
I used to watch cartoons every single day. I probably watch reruns of cartoons over 100 times. That's all I ever do. Whenever I'm doing something, cartoons are always playing in the background. I memorize everything that they say. You know what I mean? Every episode,
I
I'm
got
gonna be like,
that.
I know what he's gonna say, and like it's so fun to remember. You know what I mean? And
Oh no,
growing
totally.
up,
Yeah.
I also grew up watching Dragon Ball and Nickelodeon, and that was my life, man. That's what brought me joy. It was fun,
I,
still is.
the way any member of my family would tell you Alex's first movie was Beauty with the original animated Beauty and the Beast, and that was what probably was the first and last nail in that coffin of just that was his thing forever. I attempted to go to school to be a full-time animator, but the daunting task of sleeping at your desk day in and day out, and also my initial professor being a real piece of work, just
Oh,
threw
there's a
me
saying:
off.
those who can't teach, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this was definitely one of those, trust me. But how long have you been doing work publicly?
Oh, I started becoming serious with my work in 2016. It was a
Okay.
crazy time in my life because we lost our house, right? And I really wanted to be like to do artist for a living. And living in the Philippines, that's have like zero chance of survival when it comes to being working as an artist. So I was thinking to myself, how can I, as a third worlder, survive as an artist here in the Philippines? And I thought about it. The only way for that to be feasible is to be extremely good at what I do to the point where people go, "Holy shit, how did he do that?" And
Yeah,
that's what I did.
I
So,
noticed that you really often, I just posted, I've literally got the page up, I think.
like the Marceline thing I
Just
did.
posted the Marceline thing you did, and at least lately, you've been posting the piece plus a time lapse of how you work and how you set up all your drawings and all the compositions. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate that because it lets people know that it's doable. Very often, people will see my drawings. How do you? I'm like, and this is especially with AI, and we'll get into some AI stuff because I've seen you do videos where you have opinions about AI, which I think are
Uh,
formed good, actually. But the great Bob Ross quote is like, talent is a pursued interest that's been going around all the short clip things, especially with. I found a Bob Ross energy drink
what?
many years ago. Yeah. Bob Ross.
Bro, I feel like that is such disrespect for Bob Ross to make Bob Ross energy drink.
It's
Holy
even
shit.
worse because, oh, it tasted so bad.
Dude, why? I've been following this story with Bob Ross and how he got manipulated to do stuff he didn't want to do, right?
Oh, have you seen that? I forget what the documentary is. It's a documentary all about that.
It ruined my day. Every time I think about that, it ruins my day, dude. What they did to him, and now they turned him into an energy drink. How dystopian can you get? I hope that if I
I
like,
think, to be fair to the evil overlords commanding the shambling corpse of Bob Ross as a media
mm,
figure, I think that was to a license deal because I'm pretty sure I bought it in a Michael's in America. It was not like I was going to the grocery store and I picked up a 6-pack of Bob Ross energy drinks. No, it was very much like this shouldn't exist and almost doesn't. These are the only
let me search that real quick. Bob Ross energy drink.
it's called like Happy Skies or
Oh
something.
my God, you weren't kidding.
No, I wasn't.
Here's a
It's
Bob
also
Ross
electric
energy.
blue.
Let the man rest, dude. Oh my God.
It was one of those. I also did this with a soda that was made by Arizona Ice Tea even more years ago, endorsed by Shaq. And it was just called Soda Shack.
Hey, if it's Shaq, I get it. It's Shaq, you know? But
Well, so
Bob Ross,
here's the super weird thing, and then we'll veer back towards the topic that makes sense. But Shaq sold his likeness to a company. And so every time you see Shaq in anything, he has no say over that anymore. He sold the rights to do that.
so I feel like if they put his
Go,
face in porn, he can't do anything about it or something.
basically,
I heard also James Earl Jones sold his likeness and his voice to Disney, which is like, so every time you would hear Darth Vader,
hey,
even though James Earl Jones passed away,
that's crazy. That's insane.
and especially now with like the advent of AI,
Oh
there's
yeah.
a lot of those popping up where dead celebrities. Dude, just yesterday I saw Michael Jackson fucking rest in WWE,
Oh, You,
and
you you
it's
know
gotten
about
to the
Thor, right?
dude. It's all over my timeline,
It is mine too. It's awful.
and it's like I should put Michael Jackson in my drawings one of these days.
I think the first one anybody ever saw of him was him and a dead famous boxer hawking Zyn pouches on a TikTok live stream. It was wild. But
What a strange timeline we're in.
God, I
So
you don't
weird.
gotta tell me it's I look at all of the AI stuff, A, because I'm curious, B, because my gut feeling is that everybody has picked up a wrench from their tool bench and decided to try and make it God when it's just the tools people should be using somehow.
Whenever people say they are AI artists, I don't
Yeah.
really think they're AI artists. They're more like they are an art director to like a machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. As somebody who
Yeah,
actually sat down and used the tools and posted stuff, that makes
it's
total
like
sense. Yeah.
telling the printer to print that shit, and you're saying, "I made this."
And so
Yeah.
because a lot of where I go to look at art every day is on Instagram, I've super curated my Instagram feed to be almost exclusively artists, like you and others.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. It was a very on purpose thing a bunch of years ago. I'm tired of all this bullshit. Everything goes except if it's drawn or basically art is the only thing I get to see on my feed. Which
I'm kind of different though. My Instagram algorithm is so full of slop, dude. I feel like if people see my algorithm, I would go to jail. It's so weird.
no, I will say, I especially since they legalized weed in New Jersey, I have a section of my save that just says I was high. I don't trust myself with anything.
Yeah.
Scrolling my feeds when I'm high, it just all goes in this folder. It's probably full to the brim of madness. Who knows? So like, I
Yeah.
think it to be like a very artsy like type, but that's super not true. I promise. But what I found happening now is I get people who claim to be AI artists, but you're right, it's much more akin to like an art director does,
Hmm.
with like a machine process at the end instead of a team of designers.
Right.
But the really good ones, they are spending like in days and like the equivalent amount of time that we would be doing it,
Right.
that like would be actually sitting down and drawing, like
Hmm.
stuff, and even sometimes that's just the base and they go in there with their own skills. The really bad ones, it would stun you how much their original stuff looks a little bit like everything you've ever seen.
Yeah.
One that I was just like, this can't be a real like a single human being had not drawn this. I don't care what anybody's like. That would be some sort of savant with a machine brain. That's the only like looks too much like so much of what you've seen that it becomes a little bit like anime paste. That
Did you
makes
ever notice that AI art nowadays tend to look the same? Like
oh yeah,
rendered the same, the faces all look dead, they
because
all look sexy, they all look shiny.
it's all now a snake eating its own tail of like this less
Yeah,
stuff fed into it. So it's just like
novelty of it
yeah.
kind of off. First time AI came out, I was like, holy shit, are we cooked, chat? But now it's like the years rolled on and people kept saying that AI is going to take our job. And like example, right? I'm still here. I'm still working as an artist.
Yeah,
I'm creating
and
my
they
own
can't
business.
really. Like, can't the level of finesse and a level of thought that happens with real human-made work that can't happen with any of the AI tools because what the AI tools are essentially is they are pixel by pixel collage machines
They are,
at high
yeah.
speed. It's like not can't get anything new, especially now that they're training themselves on their own data, which is like I was programming something, I would just straight up never let that happen. Like that's gonna cause some weird stuff.
Also, funny thing too, right? I've seen people train using my art, and I've seen like my art out there that's like of mine, and it's AI art.
Yeah.
It's like, although it looks like my art from like years ago. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I
it
totally get that. Yeah.
doesn't evolve itself. Like my art has evolved over. My art has been like evolving. Can try to like my art to look like mine, but it doesn't have a soul. That's like AI art is missing. It's intent. Whenever I draw something, whenever I create a scene, whenever I create a character, I always take into account what they do, who they are, what they're interacting with, because that's humanity being injected in art. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
no,
if
yeah.
you don't have that, art is meaningless. It's just like what people call slop. It's nothing. It looks nice. It's all icing, but there's no cake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you ever want to be, and I'm absolutely terrified, go look at the Sora app. Don't you dare give that thing your face. It
Seen
open
it.
that thing up and it asks for your face immediately. I'm not giving the robot kings my face. That's
Yeah,
insane.
I've seen Batman Forever.
Yes.
Remember the time when the Riddler killed his boss and the boss jumped off the window and he was like, and there's like a video footage of it, and he was like, I loved him so much.
I don't, but
What I'm trying to get at is when I saw that when I was younger, I'm like, no way they could create a doctored video that looks exactly like real with broken glass and everything. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Now we are at the moment where nothing is real anymore. You don't know
Right.
what's real. And the worst thing is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to get like, or however you look at it, better, I guess.
Yeah. One of the funniest things that is going to lead into question for you, but one of the funny things that I immediately started seeing was that like everybody and their uncle wanted to commit infringement as soon as they got their hands on this freaking thing. And it
Yeah.
got me thinking about the way that goes because you or I have the like training and skill to
Mm,
draw what we want to see. And you regularly do, I do, but I don't share it.
mm.
So many people do that, like that's what people are like hungry about seeing it, oftentimes in the art that they consume if they want to see the characters they recognize, that kind of stuff. Is that a reason you decide to go in more of a like art nostalgic, I won't say nostalgia bait, but nostalgic forward
Well,
direction?
this started as a dare, kind of.
Okay.
I used to be like a pinup artist. All
Yeah.
I did was draw like women with like boobs because it's
Yeah.
fun. Who doesn't like that? So that's all I've been doing. I have a book like my art book.
Yeah.
That book is like years old now, and you can see it's all pinups. It's all girls. It's all poses.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, Phil, you're only popular because you only draw sexy girls. And I took that personally.
Okay.
I'm like, I'll show you. So that's because of that, I started creating backgrounds and characters interacting with one another. And when I started that, I was like, holy shit, this is fucking difficult. And I hated myself. So for years and years, I kept struggling and figuring out and hating myself because I can't achieve what I want to achieve that's in my head. But as time goes on, as the more I drew, the more I started to understand how perspective works, how
Yeah.
composition works, what genre painting is, which is what I'm doing. And the more I understand that, the more I respect art in general. The only time you respect what you do is when you dive deep and understand and get your hands dirty. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
absolutely. I get that as somebody who done everything from like design to jewelry making, and like let me tell you, you appreciate giving somebody a ring a lot more
Yeah.
once you've made a bunch of rings.
And the best thing about art is like the more you learn, the more you understand, and the more you appreciate like the masterpieces that the old art artists did. Like for example, when I look at Vermeer, because I understand how colors work, because I understand how values work and composition and everything, it gives me goosebumps. I Have you ever seen that episode of like Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Danny DeVito was all bloodied in the face and he was like, I get it.
I feel like Danny DeVito bloody in the face with Always Sunny. You're gonna need to be a little bit more specific, but I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's when Mac was doing like an interpretative dance in like the prison. It was like I forgot what season that was, but it was like had that moment where
Yeah.
when I looked at an art piece because I understand it. Like for example, never really understood the value of hard work and dedication until I did it myself. And I empathize with artists like Hokusai, right? The guy who made like
Yes.
the Great Grapes of Kanagawa.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you know what he did? You know what he said before he died?
I don't remember. I really have his coffee table look. I probably know, but I don't know.
Well, he said, God, butchering this, but he said, God, please give me 5 more years so that I can be a real artist. And he died when he was 90 years old.
Yeah.
Have your soul on fire like that on your deathbed is such a beautiful thing because once humans discover a purpose, once you discover what you need to do in this world, it just elevates you spiritually. You know what I mean? Like I see art, whenever I create art, I feel like it's hazing ritual that makes you more humble because you understand the hard work it takes to get to where you need to be. You know what I mean? You need to go through all the suffering. You need to understand that this is not all sunshine and rainbows. You need to go through all the hardships. It's tough. You're going to give up. But if you stick to it, you're going to notice something that not a lot of people notice. And that is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Do remind me specifically of the bumpers that Cartoon Network used to have.
Hell yeah.
Where
It's my
they
favorite.
were, I think you know exact one I'm talking about. Where like Dexter's mom going to the grocery store and runs into like a cartoon character. The more B-team version of this is the Fox Kids ads that used to have like Hill from King of the Hill selling Silver Surfer propane tanks for his surfboard. I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah.
It has to be intentional. How do you figure out where to put all the characters in?
So every character that I do, they're archetypes, right?
Yeah,
Bravo is the himbo, Samurai Jack is a demure but really like person,
yeah,
and Dexter's dad is just a straight up creep for his wife. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
The
I
character's
want to
so
make him
great.
so creepy because there's something so lovable about a husband obsessed with his wife's ass. You know what I mean? It makes
Well,
you
and
feel good.
also specifically the episode about coffee in Dexter's lab, where like him and where Dexter and Dee Dee drink all the coffee in the house.
Yeah, her
No,
dad's like, "Where's the
and there's
coffee?" I
no coffee
remember that
left,
episode.
and like, and that man breaks.
Yeah, dude, that is. Well, they don't make cartoons like that anymore, do they?
No, they don't. They either go way in that direction or they go like this Cocomelon for 13-year-olds. Like, or
Like,
really, you never
like
get that like package situation anymore. I noticed.
yes, feel as though recently cartoons and content are way too safe for everyone. You know what I mean? They're not want to take chances anymore with the stories that they tell. That's why we get like a bunch of stories that are like mediocre nowadays because it's for everyone. And that is, I feel, the problem that most media has right now is because they don't cater to a specific demographic. One example, this like in Japan, for example, they have
Yeah.
shonen books,
Yeah.
right? And those books, that content is specifically catered for boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Albert, yeah.
There's also content for girls. That's why Sailor Moon exists. That's
Yeah.
why Cardcaptor Sakura exists, and both exists in their own separate genre.
Yeah.
Feel the problem with media nowadays is everyone is so afraid to stir the pot that they're afraid to do something that might like people uncomfortable. Like example, the Witcher series. I don't know why I'm using that as an example at the top of my head, but I played The Witcher, right? Like
Yeah.
such a badass video game.
Yeah.
I spent like 400 hours on it, and you know how Geralt is. He's this guy. He's like, and when you look at The Witcher now, for example, have you seen the picture of like that's
No.
characters?
No, I haven't.
Well, they look like LARPers. They look like your D&D group. You know what? They
Yeah.
look like one of my friends who cosplayed and are in the Witcher series.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on with American media nowadays, but that's what I noticed basically.
So first, have you seen the from which if you want more cartoons that are less concerned with towing a line or staying within like a certain box of what they feel like they're allowed to do, I'd encourage anybody watching this to listening to it to check out Glitch over on YouTube. They have a pilot for a show called Knights of Guinevere.
Oh, dude, I love that shit. It's so good.
It's so
That's what I mean, man.
you know the background behind that, right? Behind how that got made, correct?
Can you refresh my
So
memory?
the you heard of a show called The Owl House from Disney.
Yes. Yeah, I
The
drew an
original
Owl House
creator of
character.
The Owl House had that show canceled. I had that show canceled way before she wanted it to be canceled, and everybody's suspicion of why Disney pulled the plug on it was because they just didn't want a like main character in like a long running TV show. And but you also kind of feel Disney's hand slowly throughout that show, and the way that you feel Disney's hand on one of their animated movies, on any of their movies. But
Right.
in the show, it's not quite like reaching and adjusting things on screen, but it feels like it could get there. And so the reason why Knights of Guinevere is what it is fully digging its pitchfork deep into the entire existence of Disney as just a company that like what it propagates. It's
Mhm.
wild. But it's actually just talked a lot about this in my previous episode, all about panty and stocking. But which is really interesting because I don't know if you watched the original or watching it now or both.
Mm.
It picked up like it never stopped. It was completely fully insane by 10 seconds into episode one of the newest season. You were like,
See, dude, that is what happens if you let artists do their shit.
yeah,
Example of this is Love, Death, and Robots. Oh
I
my
love that
God.
show.
It's
I love that
so
show so
freaking
much. I
good.
didn't care if they did weird NFT things.
Dude, that is what art is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Art should comfort the disturb the comfortable. They're not afraid of stepping on people's toes, and that's why they can create so much beautiful content. Like it's so unfiltered, it's so gritty,
So
and I
let
miss
me ask
that.
you a question. How do you feel about the word? How do you feel about how you use the word content there?
What do you mean?
So like TV was the primary medium. People would say things like programming,
Hmm.
a television program, like a
A
cartoon,
TV
or you
show,
know, like
yeah,
a
yeah.
cartoon. But now that the internet, we're literally putting it out into right now, it's the primary mode of delivery for art and any kind of creative thing.
Hmm.
Called everything content. But that
Yeah.
comes real connotation. I think way too much about this.
Did you see
Real
that? Did you see that?
connotation of
Uh,
like content different than art. It has to be because of what you just said. There's certain things sure your sketchbooks are insane. My sketchbooks are insane. It's how our brains work.
hmm.
They would put us in a prison 9 miles deep and 10 miles into the sun if they found the contents of our sketchbooks.
Yeah.
We don't put that online because all the people who are the delivery pipes for content, that word again, don't want it there, so they won't let it there. And so, like, you can only get so risque, so opinionated before your stuff just gets wiped, period.
Are you talking about too many cooks in the kitchen?
Not too many cooks in the kitchen. It's more like there's a self-censoring that's happening. And that's what I think is oftentimes happening in media now,
Uh-huh.
especially kids' cartoons. There's this awful program Crunchyroll had called Crunchyroll Originals. But then
The one with Jaden Smith's anime?
no, that was a Netflix. That was a fully Netflix thing. That was just
Oh,
like I can appreciate that for the hustle of Jaden Smith being out there with his weird shit. It was
yeah,
like this by Rebecca Sugar who does Steven Universe.
yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
she was like the lead on it. But forget what it was called. But I remember this show was so had an agenda and was so specific, but was also like avoiding going like the extra mile of like a Family Guy where it like it could curse until all of a sudden one episode for one joke, it never happened again.
Mm.
Side character talked about her parents not being happy because her mom keeps banging the pool boy as like a
Yeah.
side conversation. I had to pause it and rewind and be like, did this happen? Did I go schizophrenic for 5 seconds? That's a
Th-
different show.
There's so many adult humor injected in children's cartoons that nobody knows about, and I love that stuff. Like for example, in Animaniacs, where they were looking for fingerprints, and
Oh,
Dot was
yeah,
like, "I found prints."
Animaniacs is like a
Yeah,
huge should go and get a film degree and then go back and watch the Animaniacs. I'm sure you would just second for second appreciate that thing more.
yeah, that's what
But
I live for, man.
now, when you're dealing with all the different characters that you're pulling from, like network, anime, just saw DT. I just saw the drummer from the Gorillas in the piece that you put up with Marceline.
Yeah.
Are you like you mentioned in like the pre-recording, which no one will ever hear? Too bad, so sad. Working with archetypes that involve having
Mm.
like a head canon for each character. Like the characters like the devil from Cow and Chicken are real easy. Other
Yeah.
ones to be really inventive and do like a lot of like how does this character from Powerpuff Girls smoke pot kind of thing.
Mm. Like, let's say I'm making a piece, right? And I'm making a piece
Okay.
about like smoking weed.
Yeah.
Take some time, and I think to myself, like, who would be really interesting to smoke weed with? Like,
Okay.
what can I do to add some umami to the piece? So there's this word I like to use. It's called umami.
Okay.
It's the kick that your art needs to have some oomph. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for example, the painting with Marceline started with just like I wanted to draw like a rock concert, but then the umami of the piece was like Princess Bubblegum and her bra was thrown on like and it just
Yeah.
adds a storytelling element that makes it cool. And the reason why I picked Princess Bubblegum to throw the bra is because people on the internet, people all over the world who are fans of time know that these two have like a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
I'm basically nudging the people towards a storytelling element of the piece. Like, oh my God, Princess Bubblegum throwing like her bra. What does Finn feel about it? So everybody creates like a story, like can weave their own story based on what they see on the piece. So going back to how I choose characters, it's basically just who I find funny. You know, it might be funny having Muriel smoke pot. You know, her husband is there, like, what are you doing? But like her husband is like, she's handing her the blunt, and there's a whole interaction with it. And maybe I can draw courage zonked out of his mind on a couch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you think that, it's like a funny scenario. And I also think about, is this respectful to the characters that I'm drawing? So it's
Okay.
not
Yeah.
just, yeah, if I create Muriel and I disrespect her by drawing her in a really weird way, it's not
Yeah.
going to hit.
No.
But if
Yeah.
I draw Muriel as this sweet lady who's old but is having the fucking time of her life. That is such a relatable thing. Like you ever see like people on the internet and they're like having the best time of their life? It gives me like makes my
I've
heart.
seen that in real life. It's great. It's like seeing a double rainbow and a unicorn at the
Yes.
same time. It's fantastic.
And it's the same reason why me drawing Dexter's dad really horny for his wife is such a wonderful thing to like see. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like that's so nice. And whenever you look at that piece, it gives you like nice warmth about it too. And like the whole piece with like XJ9 trying out the hot topic like bra. I
Yeah.
took that from when I was growing up and us being kids, we just like like weird shit. And that is something people can relate to. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get that. There's a great Mark Maron's podcast is ending. You might not listen to him, you might, doesn't matter, but one of his last guests was actually maybe his last guest was Groening, the creator of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And hearing Matt Groening tell stories about his childhood, you hear The Simpsons in his childhood in a way that I'm not even sure he does, even as old as he is at this point.
Yes.
It's just, oh, like, okay, story makes absolute sense from the guy who, like, created Simpson and those shenanigans.
Like if the artist lived a full life, he can translate that to his art. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally. So, speaking of like characters you choose to use, one of the biggest through lines, at least I see in all of your stuff, is like adventures of Samurai Jack and Johnny Bravo. What earth were you like? You know what? Those two are going to be best friends in everything they show up in, and like register them as like a main character to like a set of the pieces that you've made of just like the one where they go to the nudist beach and
Yeah.
really funny to me. Yeah, like not only them being friends, but like just being weirdly hyped and not hyped about being at a nude beach, but Samurai Jack just being like, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
Two people here.
It's really funny to put those two in scenarios because if you notice Samurai Jack and Johnny Bravo together, it's that dynamic has been done to death. You know, always this loud mouth friend, and there's
Yeah,
always this quiet friend. You know, perfect example would be Bart and Millhouse. And the reason why those archetypes are very, very popular is you can just put those two in every scenario. You could have them buying ice cream, and you could
yeah,
just imagine in your head what would Johnny Bravo do in this situation, especially if the person who's serving the ice cream is a hot girl. And what
yeah.
would Samurai Jack do to prevent escalation of trouble? You know, those are the types of things I think about because that's what makes for like a real great storytelling element to a piece.
And you know what? A little bit. So you primarily post your art on, I'm assuming, Instagram. Do
Mhm.
you ever table at conventions? Do you have people who sell your art at conventions? Is that something you're ever interested in, or is it just too much trouble?
Um, Now I have known as Howling Riot. They're like the best people in the world,
Yeah.
based off of the Netherlands, and
Yeah.
go to conventions and they actually help sell my stuff over there, and I
Okay,
get
yeah.
like
I know there's a couple people. Like, I think Theorlight, her name's Theorlight. I've never met her, but I've seen her stuff at anime convention galore because of that. Because
yeah.
another
Also,
seller like
I
that.
also did conventions here in the Philippines, but you can't survive as a tabler here in the Philippines. Like a
That,
perfect example was this one time where I tabled, right?
yeah.
And I spent 8 hours there and I only earned like pesos. That's about like give or take.
Oh, yeah. I'm not gonna count it.
No.
So I don't know how many of them you've seen, but their first one I saw was like myself, but they've gotten more popular since. Their artists will do breakdowns of like how much it costs for them to go to a convention and how much they get out of it. And like when I super worth it. That's super
Yeah.
worth the pain in the ass you have to do for it if you do really well.
Hold on. Can you hold that thought? Someone's at my window. I need to.
I just paused it so it's like away from the mic, although this isn't radio and nobody will find us, but still. That's interesting, like I said, because like America, like the artist alley is like big deal and tabling, it's a massive pain in the ass. It's beyond a pain in the ass. Like well because so convention centers in America are like a big business thing on every
Mhm.
angle you can imagine.
Right.
Food is really expensive when you go to a convention inside of the convention center. But also the people paying the artists in Artist Alley pay for the booth.
Mm,
Usually go to the people running the convention, but I'm sure some of that goes back to the actual convention center eventually.
mm,
But then if they want to have internet to be able to do like card transactions, then they have to pay for Wi-Fi. I think in the Javits it's like $100 per device.
mm,
It Now they end up making all that back on just because they priced everything well, and like often artists like Jess, who was just on the show I think 2 weeks ago, was at the time of recording this, but at 2 weeks ago she, for a fact, she just sold out. She's selling out of things because she's at New York Comic Con right now, and she's
mm.
things like, I have no more $1 bills. Someone please come give me $1 bills. Oh wait, never mind. Some lunatic showed up and paid for $50 worth of my stuff in only $1 bills.
Ah, dude. One of the fun things about the convention is like the
Yeah,
wow that I guess.
but it's interesting that like translate to the Philippines, but I don't
No,
know if the notoriously Asian conversion rates are awful. Oh, like awful. Like inflation and all that stuff. It's wild.
yeah, like this is such a poor country, dude. It's like a world country. Um, it has perks. You know, you survive off of like $60 for like a month if you know where to go.
Okay, so that's at numbers, and some of the numbers are truly astronomically insane. But like that is like a thing here. Like lots of artists, they are making like their for that month or that rent maybe for the next 2 months. Kind of. It's still not great, but if you had ever tabled, because I looked at stuff and I'm like, this stuff would just you just do. How do your stuff sell at conventions abroad? Is
I
it
I
popular?
I think so. But yeah, like selling like my old stuff, like the new stuff that I'm doing, they're not because I guess they're worried about copyright because of the that I put up. But
Oh, you would be able to sell it, but that'd be a little sketchy for them, because like if you
yeah,
draw something and then offer it up for money, we're allowed to do that because it's interpretive work. If
right.
you do this
Yeah.
as a man, it gets weird. So I get that.
Yeah. I want to go tabling in America one of these days, but getting a visa is very, very different for me.
Oh yeah,
Like,
especially right now, I wouldn't. I wouldn't
yeah,
want to
I have
do
some
it particularly
stories.
now, but you know.
A couple of years.
No, I just wondered, especially like I made the mistake because of when you stream on Twitch of thinking like, oh, he's on at 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern time because he seems to stream on that schedule.
Yeah, dude,
Oh,
my is like my clock is whack. Like I
it kind
wait. Yeah.
yeah. But speaking of like your presence and like that kind of thing, what what's your relationship like with like your social media?
It's I guess like a lot of people seem to like what I'm doing right now. And I get canceled a lot anymore, which is weird. Yeah, far people have been super liking the stuff that I post out there. It's really nice to see that there are like back to being kids again when they see my art. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not for me, I guess.
but do you hit you hard when something doesn't travel as far in terms of reach as it normally does, or stuff like that? Or does that happen to you?
Yeah, I started off. I used to take it personally. When I started in 2016, my drawings would get 5 likes every time I
Yeah,
would post, and I would spend like 8 on a piece, right?
yeah,
And whenever I would put it out there and people aren't like enthusiastic, it hurts me. It's right because as artists, when we put a lot of hours in, when we put our heart and soul into our art and we put it out there for the world to see and nobody likes it, it hurts, you know, basically pouring your piece, your soul. And if nobody likes it, it just destroys you. But when I realized that it's not about your audience. It's what I do and what I can do to improve who I am. When the perspective shift, it became much easier because if your happiness depends on outside sources, something that you can't control, like the opinions of other people, um, it's a really bad way of like doing now. But your happiness comes from what you can put out there, like the work. In Japan, there's this a word called kaizen, the never-ending pursuit of unattainable perfection, and that's what I'm trying to do as an artist. Is every time I create artwork, it's not just for the people who look at my artwork, it's for me as an artist and how I can improve. Because when I improve, uh, people who receive my art will also improve.
Yeah.
If I improve the quality of my work, I guess people will pay me more if I take commissions. So if you just focus on the work and your improvement, um, things fall into place, and that's what I as an artist.
Yeah. So actually, here's an interesting question. Do you only draw digitally now, or do you still go back to traditional everything every once in a while, just to like stretch your legs?
So yes, it's usually the time I do Inktober stuff, right? Like that's
Yeah, I'm
usually
gonna
my
ask you about Inktober actually because I want to
um
know what your reasoning for doing that is.
Inktober destroys me every time I do it. Imagine, right?
Thank God. Me too. I try it. This is
Dude,
the first year I'm not doing it because I'm
yeah,
like putting more
same.
on
This
this
is the
stuff.
first time in like 6 years that I'm not doing Inktober.
I
And
noticed. So I'm like, if you also not, okay, I'm better now.
yeah, it takes a toll on me. Like you like 12 hours on your desk, you draw, and you
Yeah.
do that for 31 days. That is insane. Japanese people don't even work that hard. You know what I
I
mean?
I have like an ink 52 thing where it's 52 in the year. I'm like, no.
Good. You know, thing, if it was digital, I would breeze through that shit easily, right?
Yeah.
But there's no control Z. So you got to be very careful.
You're doing that your Inktober stuff traditional.
Yeah, what do you think?
I didn't. I probably knew that, but it didn't register in my brain.
Let me find my pieces.
Yeah. Okay. But the fact. Okay, you're doing traditional. That's much. Wow.
I don't know where I put it. But yeah, like my stuff, it's all traditional because I challenged myself. So every Inktober, I only do traditional stuff and I sell my art for like $200 just to get by.
Yeah.
Shipping sucks. And
Go. You gotta start selling your stuff for more.
I know I'm really bad about that stuff, you
Uh,
know. A lot of people keep
you'd
selling
be
me like Phil,
surprised how much.
undervalue yourself.
There's a the brand name J18. They're like a brand of J list, and
Hmm.
they're a erotic um publisher. They
Hmm.
had a huge booth at Anime NYC, and they brought these so like a version of Shiki boards that were drawn by an artist who they brought with them.
Hmm.
You look at these things, and I'm saying this, if Jess hears this, I'm sorry, Jess, you're gonna be pissed off. But Jess was selling something in a similar size, same kind of piece, same kind of just generalized portrait. I think hers was like $30.
Hmm.
The J people were selling something that was the same thing, but by a much better, well-known, era, thousands of dollars. Like
Jeez.
I think they started at like three.
Damn. It's a nice
And they were
scratch.
like hawking things at their after dark panel too. And he's like, just with a bag full of cash and we'll give you this one of a kind priceless thing.
Dude, like I said, the world is run by suspiciously rich furries.
Oh my God. If you are ever in, and this is for everyone listening to this, if you're ever in VR chat, go to the first furry world you find. It's just going to be the best, one of the best ones. Because they take the time to just put their all into everything. I will never insult a furry. You'll walk into a booby trap that's like, you won't walk
I
into a
love
booby
them.
trap. You'll walk into Truman Show and they'll lock the door.
Yeah, like the furries and the people who commissioned me
Yeah,
helped build this house because I was homeless. I really didn't have like up to stay, but I took a lot of commissions, sold my Inktober stuff, and
yeah.
I built a studio. So the walls are lined with furry art money.
You know,
So
telling you how many times. I've read and heard from artists. Oh, I don't want to take furry commissions, but they just way too much to ignore.
Bro, I don't care who you are, take the furry commissions.
Yeah.
It's
Hey,
there's nothing wrong with that. Like
from
there was a
two
time,
actual professional creative people,
okay,
and they're
first into
furry
this,
artists.
from one artist to another. There was a point in my life where all I did was draw furry art with the big cocks, with that.
Yeah,
And
that it happened.
there's
It
probably
happened.
art out there that I did that's like, but it's probably like somewhere. But taking those commissions fed my family, they built my house, and you got to do what you got to do as an artist. I have the luxury to pick. Well, we do, but you starve.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
There's
this
a
whole
reason
thing
that
with like,
I am doing this as like my personal thing, and I've never like super into like any any of that stuff. Because once you do that, it's like spin out of control really easily. And like
yeah,
also, this is my job now, and I hate it a little. Um, no, not like artists have the right to choose, and like you know what you're doing talking about art.
I
That
hope so.
probably comes. What?
I hope so.
That probably comes, but some of that comes from like the things for a long time, but a lot of that probably comes from you doing your classes. I
Mm,
haven't talked to anybody who's ever offered any kind of creative classes. I've taken a
yeah,
couple, but just out of like curiosity and also like I'm backgrounds. Let me take this background course and see if I get anything out of it. I might
right.
not, but what made you want to start an art course?
Well, a lot of people keep asking me how I create and how
Okay.
I do my stuff, how I can draw really fast. So my course is about how to draw faster and how to like how to fail faster, because the one of the ways to actually improve yourself as an artist is to draw and fail constantly. And my course is about how to execute the anatomy in such a way that it makes you figure out what works and what doesn't work. If you've
Yeah.
noticed, like I changed everything a lot.
Oh my God. Yeah, I got a lot because yours look like my speed paint that like you get like halfway almost done with an idea. And you're like, nope,
Got it. Yeah,
do
you're
it.
darling, so they said. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I've gone like correct them ready for anything. Yeah, I just look out like, nope, don't like this anymore.
dude,
Gone.
I would be working on a piece for like a week, and I would be like, this sucks, and I would just scrap it, and nobody will ever see it
Yeah.
because yeah, that's how it is. If I don't feel good about my art piece, I would just destroy it. Because if you have this habit of nurturing and loving every piece that you do, you will never find to improve that art. You know what I mean? Artists that create something and they're like, that's good enough. And whereas I work at something, and if I find that it doesn't work, I would just completely scrap it. I don't care if I spend a lot of time in it, because if you don't think like that, it means you don't love your work, because only the best for the people that look at my work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
So what first how long until you felt like you were ready to like teach, not that there's a right or wrong answer to this.
There will never be a time when you feel like you're ready.
Okay,
But
yeah.
I can offer is what I know now. And based on what I've learned so far, I believe that people can learn something from my because the way I create is unorthodox, if you've noticed it. Like it's like I don't use I think this. I don't use blocks anymore to create the human anatomy. I don't
Yeah.
use like perspective line. I do sometimes, but I learned this from Kim Jong-gi, who's
Yeah.
passed away on October 3.
Yeah.
I that really hit me hard because I was doing Inktober. And yeah, you find a way to use that to your advantage, I think.
Sorry, I'm adjusting my mic.
That's cool.
But what are your goal? What do you want to offer people, and what do you want to get out of doing an art course?
When they enroll in my class, not only do they get my right, they
Yeah.
also join this community where I'm there every single day. So I'm like a personal mentor. And I believe
Okay,
that's
gotcha.
really, really
Yeah.
important as an artist for when you can like ask your teacher, like, what can I do to help like fix? And
Yep.
I would just do that every day because my life is all about art, right? So if you would just send an artwork at 4 a.m. in the morning, I would see that. I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, that you could fix. And that
Yep.
for me is doing that because when I grew up, I never had someone who I could take my art to and help me with it. That's only reserved for like if you go to like expensive art schools, right? So
Yeah. No.
uh if I were given the chance to talk to Sam Darts, for example, right?
Yep.
And I would give them, hey Sam, what do you think about this art? And if he would like fix art and help me to improve it, that's more than a lot of money. Like it's valuable information for someone who is super good at what they do for
Mhm.
them to give you like and then there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. And I know tons of people, they don't have access or they don't have regular access or even, I mean, started recording properly. I gave you a little bit of my sad life story, and that was that I had a very bad animation teacher who was not entirely responsible, but partially responsible at the very least for me being like, nope, I'm not gonna do
Is it
this.
one of those teachers who hate anime style?
No, he was one of the more damaged people I think I've ever seen. Just like you got to like his ability as an animator because he was actually a very talented and capable stop motion animator, but
Mm-hmm.
just like everything else combined to just be like just a guy who was not very happy with life. And so there was a strong possibility that if you made him more unhappy, he would come down on you. And it just was like,
That's
no, what are you
what a
doing, dude? I'm
oh
18. I'm gonna go forever now.
yeah, well, just a lot of sad people in the world that affects other people. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, totally.
Like I went to class. I actually went to like art here in the Philippines, but
yeah.
then taught me the things I know. I used to have a teacher who was. I hope he's not listening to this. I gotta say his name, but he was so
What do you think? I
pretentious.
didn't say my teacher's name.
Yeah, he was so pretentious to the point where he would have opinions that are vague, like for like a right like
Yeah.
you think about this, and he'd be like, what do you think is wrong about it, bitch? You're my teacher, tell me. Like you don't need to
Yeah.
make this like
Like I
so
paid to be here because I'm trying to get
yeah,
better. I
like
need help.
teacher, what causes subsurface scattering? I don't know. What is art? Like tell me, you know. Yeah, there are people like that. So as much as possible, whenever there's people who ask me about things about how to improve their anatomy, I always tell them what's what, because everyone is struggling and everybody is hurting with their art. The
Yeah, and
least you could do is lessen
it's
the hurt.
really it's uncommon for you to get as an artist who's like really in the learning stage, not that you're not always in the learning stage, but in the very early learning stage, to
Mm,
get advice that you know how to use, but is also usable, if that makes any sense.
right.
Like it's not so esoteric, like something just doesn't feel right about it, you know? Also like straightforward enough where you're not like talking like the of somebody's pinky nail relative to the rest of the world kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what you seem to want to offer people who sign up for your course.
Mm.
What reception been like? Do you get people in these courses?
Yeah. To this course, I'll these like pre videos of how I do
Yeah.
stuff, like
Yep.
how anatomy and everything. And whenever they have questions and stuff, I them. We have like a group where I'm there 24/7,
Great.
and I help them. I'm basically a chat GPT for art, but I'm real. You know this. I help people to the best of my abilities, and that's what I do.
I used to be that when I was in high school. I was the encyclopedia child in the art classes. I was,
Yeah.
Alex, how do you draw an electric guitar in perspective? And then it would go, I would get angry because I was in the middle of something. I'm like, why do you think I would know that? But then here's how you do it. Now leave me alone.
Yeah. Whenever asks me how to draw an electric guitar, for example, I would just tell them outright, buy Clip Studio Paint. They have like 3D app. You could just plop right it and you could trace over it. Like works not hard. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, I long time user of models and stuff like that because I'm like I make sure this is right because I don't want to get tripped up on like basically moving heads eight at a time to make sure that everything's the right size. That's insane. So I just like
Yeah.
which I have done. Like you should do that at least once, but like that's what you need. Um, I've always been really interested in because there's so many art courses. They're all like for levels. Some of them are super useful, like yours. Some of them are super unuseful, where you're just like, okay, but you give me none of the steps to get from where I am to where you are,
Yeah.
even.
Like I like the important thing if you're starting a class is to be there for your students.
Yeah.
Like the class is there and you should be like supplementary. You're there when people are struggling
Yep.
because there are some courses out there where they just like take the course and they just leave you alone. The most
Oh,
important, yeah, the
and there are
important
some
thing.
like technically in courses, like I saw an design course for like continuing it for my actual professional career, and just I'm sure the interior designers who were running the course, it was through a reputable, like actual, I would think it was like through the new school actually in New York City, were very good designers, made total sense they were teaching, but they were just not good teachers. And it
Yeah.
was like, I know what you're talking about, but you're also not giving anyone in here enough.
Yeah.
Um, so now do you want to more courses, or is this like a thing you want to keep doing like on into until as long as you can do it? Or
I'm when people like need it. Like for example, all people are curious about how I do my colors. So
yeah,
I'm opening up. I'm currently working on that course on how to draw colors, how to color like I do.
okay,
Um,
yeah,
there's courses out there about how to color, but there's only one way to do my colors. You know what I mean? It's
no, yep,
yeah. So everybody knows color theory and stuff like that. Well, if you're like an artist, but I guess I view colors personally, like how values are to like the surrounding colors and stuff like
yep,
that, which is very interesting to me. And I want to like create a course for that. Like for example, whenever you create like a red ball, you might ask like, how do you a red ball? It's not just about painting the ball red and the values. It's about the colors surrounding it because colors place off of each other. And if you choose perfect color to pair with this color, it just elevates your art piece. It gives you that umami that improves tremendously. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So yeah.
Um, a little here, um, but now I know the answer to this from talking to you for this entire time, but you, it's just you, everything, right? Do you have any kind of team that helps you with anything?
With the I'm
Okay,
working with like wonderful people we learn, so they
okay,
take care of like uh making sure great,
yep,
um getting there ever are
yeah,
sent to like the that's very very important. For example, like my course, I do not want to lock them. That's very very like I don't. There's like a 30-day back guarantee so that if people can't afford it, they could just get their money back. Like I really don't as much. I just want people to like learn something based on what I'm learning. And
yeah, no, totally.
yeah, so I'm putting out there.
And then, kind of last, who are three artists that you follow that you really, really, really love?
God. Dude, that is a hard question because I follow so many great artists.
I know, I
Um,
do too. I
well, Loish, I
okay,
guess, is a popular one.
yeah,
Um, I love you Kylie. Do you know that artist? He's also Filipino. He's one of the he creates these, it's Khylie. He draws,
Kylie.
yeah, and not safe for work artist, yeah, but he posts like safe for works, but
Okay, gotcha.
the posts out there are so funny. And he also uses the characters in a way that plays off of each other. And yeah, he's one of the artists that I look up to the most right
Okay.
now. And he's also, which is like
Oh,
crazy.
that's
Yeah. Maybe
and
the is Kim Jong Gi.
okay.
He's my boy.
Yeah. And I've got, but thank you so much for hanging out. If you can hang out for just a second longer and we can wrap up,
Sure.
quote unquote, off camera, that would be great.
Okay.
So that is my conversation with Philtomato. You can find that interview on YouTube and in the podcast feed. Wherever you're listening to this or watching this, you can find that interview as well as the rest of the podcast. But you can also find a whole lot more over on bento-box.ghost.io, which is the kind of hub site for everything that I do on the internet, meaning these conversations with artists. Speaking of which, including these conversations with artists, speaking of which, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment down below if you have an artist that you want to hear from, that you want me to reach out to and have a conversation with. I really like doing these. I want to do more. I'm actively looking for artists to talk to. If you are an artist and you're watching this and you would like to talk about your process and all that stuff, please reach out and we will figure it out. But until next time, I have been Alex. This has been Bento Radio, and I will talk to you later.